Hello, everybody. How's it going? We will give some folks a few minutes to come in. They're going to make it in before we get started. But thank you for joining. So, for those of you that might be joining, we have two QR codes on the right. Uh, Top right is going to be the support channel where we post all of these videos and we create content based around questions that we get from these Lunch and Learns. So, if we get a question a number of times in Lunch and Learn, we'll usually make a short video about said content. And on the bottom right, we have the Decision Solutions Marketplace. So, it is a good place to go. Decisions. I think that's what we call it. Decision support. Decisions app marketplace. So basically, with a lot of these, you just have small build outs that you can customize for your particular use case. So these have, like I said, generalized just depending on what they are, they might have rules, workflows, or forms, or some of them might have um, more things to it, but you can kind of click and learn more. And walk through kind of some of this stuff. But again, this is on that top right QR code up here, the Solutions Marketplace. Kind of float around and look at some of this stuff while we're seeing if more people will show up. And if they don't, I'll just do a quick little bounce around of some version 9 stuff and we'll call it. But let's see here. So yeah, again, those of you that might just be kind of tuning in later. Um, we have this decisions solutions marketplace on the bottom right on there, and it will, or you can just Google it, and it will take you to where we have some kind of halfway built out templatized projects that might have dashboards, forms, workflows, and rules built in, so that you can start getting your automation implemented as soon as possible. We also have a CSS generator, which can help you make custom CSS for your organization. So if you have brand colors or brand fonts, things along those lines, I believe the fonts as well, you can, as long as you have that font installed, you should be able to utilize those. We'll translate. We have a Google Maps one as well somewhere that I've used in the past. Google Maps viewer, things along those lines. So if you are interested in these, again, you can get it now, or you can also find them um, in your instance. You got to figure out where we do it in none, but it does exist. Names under designers. All right. We'll kind of start talking about some stuff, some version 9, if anyone's I know that the people that are in here, if you have any questions, I mean, I would think both of you guys have a robust knowledge of decisions kind of ecosystem. So maybe you could lunch and learn me, but just a couple things that I've kind of noticed about version 9 that's just interesting for folks who might be tuning in, so I can kind of fill some time in case other people do, is that if you update from version 8 to version 9, for those of you that might be interested at a future date, uh, version 8 and version 9 view the architecture around a project totally different. So the paradigm has kind of shifted. You might find that when you try to import a project into version 9, you might get an error message that looks something like, see if I can find a version 8 project. Yeah, you might get yourself an error like this. Hmm, does not qualify as a project. Please import an appropriate project. So the reason why is because this is expecting a version 9 project and you're trying to import a version 8, so it just views it from a totally different paradigm. If you wanted to utilize that methodology, just the import project button, if you create a project and then import into it, it will work. So if I go through that same process and import into this project, it will work. Boom, if I import it. I don't necessarily need to do that. But if you are updating from version 8 to version 9, all of your version 8 projects will show up in this folder view on the left. And in this folder view, you'll have your projects, and you'll be given the option by right-clicking on them to move folder to a project. Or for certain projects, it'll give you the option to convert legacy project, depending on which version you are updating from. But you'll either get move folder to project or convert legacy project. So a thing to keep in mind, though, is that when you do that, if you go through the move folder to project, it'll allow you to make a project and rename it. If you convert legacy project over, the name is immutable and you cannot change it. So you do want to think ahead of time about what is an appropriate naming convention for your project. And even back here on this, for imported project, all that stuff, that is not stuff that you can currently change. The imported project is the name of this project, and I cannot change the name of that as it currently sits. You can rename designer folders within your project, but you cannot rename the project itself. Another thing to consider for the version 9 converts is that the concept of normal folders and standard folders has kind of changed in that paradigm as well. So in previous iterations, you used to, within a project, you used to create a normal folder and add a page and create a dashboard. So you create a normal folder, um, you create a folder rather than a designer project. And within that, you could add a page and make a dashboard. But you'll notice that in version 9 over here, every time I go to try and create a folder, whether it be through this path, it's always a designer folder. Or if I go up through here through this path, it's always a designer folder. The only way you can make new, what would be like customer facing information in dashboards in version 9 is you have to be in your public folder space. And then from here, create folder. Notice how it no longer says create designer folder. It's just saying create folder. I think the same methodology works up here. Nope. So that one will still be for designer. So yeah, if you wanted to create a public folder or a dashboard, you'd have to manage to your public folders and create that folder. There's no moving convention, but I could go dashboard, and within this, I can still add a page and create a dashboard that way. So that's another change for the converts if you are watching this from that uh, perspective. Another thing that has changed is internal methods. So in previous iterations, you might have had, um, oh, yeah, but looks like I've done this demo to someone recently. Internal methods, you might have had the option to go through and say, okay, I want to go integration, internal, and then do like a group service, maybe to get groups or to get something like that, or to file reference service, something along those lines. But notice how now under internal services compared to, let's just open up a random flow here. Yeah, in previous iterations, like this is version 8.19, if I go through that same file path, Chrome path, I go integration, internal, I'm given all of these options here, right? Account service, group service, which I talked about just a few moments ago, folder service, things along those lines. So now it's just one singular step. So I can call internal decisions service, and from there I can parse down through those methods. So like group service will be right here. If I can find the G's, group service, and then those same steps like get account by group, get accounts for group, they are all still there. So another update to the version 9 world. Another thing we kind of have here is through your manage, you have these scores, activities, you have health scores, and you can configure these things to tell you information that you might need to know. So on this particular project, it's been utilized today a lot more than it has been this morning. And for health scores, I do believe you find that on the info. Where's my info? Yep. And then you can go up here to the top to health, and it'll tell you why or why not your scores had changed. So we had no description to the flow, we had no error handling, we have no unit tests, and we have a validation issue in there that basically the path is not connected and there's no step input connections. Dependencies also has changed. Circular dependencies are a thing of the past. So if you wanted to, you could add a dependency in one direction, but then if I went over to Greg's purchase request build, I could not add a dependency for imported projects. So it's only going to be one way. You cannot have these circular back and forth dependencies. We're just trying to isolate projects to be more standalone so that um, in use cases, you don't create a rat's nest for yourself of things that where you don't know or don't make the connection that something might be connected to another project. It kind of keeps you working in these smaller sandboxes. So this info tab, again, is also helpful for history, integrations, things along those lines. You can change the time span. These are just some new version 9 stuff. So again, health, really cool. Dashboard, you can create to-do lists. And you can add a to-do list. So if you and your team are working in a particular capacity, you could say, hey, I want to add an assignee, change the name of the to-do and describe it so that people can go through and check those off. You also have this kind of validations overview. So this is also a good, useful tool if you're updating from version 8 to version 9 and you want to see maybe, hey, what are the issues that I now have because a step may have been changed or some of those dependencies may have not resolved before you migrated up. This issues is a good place to look. You also have all entities, which is just going to show you the entities with the project. But again, in this project, I don't really have much. But if I go to a much more built out project, we can go, okay, issues. And we can just see, oh, okay, there's an issue there. There's two here. And it kind of keeps a lot of your organization in one place. We call this the project hub because it's a hub for things to do. You have all your entities, again, stuff that we've built out, the manager page. We do have some unit tests that have run through this project. And we can look at the health. I bet you the score is probably pretty low. It's not available right now. Oh, there we go. 67. So not a passing score. But it's just, the kind of things that will keep you better organized, decisions, best practices like descriptions and making sure you're naming steps and things along those lines. Um, but this is really useful stuff in 9 for those of you that might be interested in making that migration eventually. And again, with this public folder, notice how I put my dashboard in here so that it would work. Because again, your dashboards and all of that, if it is going to be a customer facing or an end user facing, let's reword it that way, an end user facing uh, interaction, you're going to want to put it in the public folders just so that you can adjust permissions on it in a more smooth way. But that workflow has changed from 8 to 9. You do also have some, rather than and yeah, some of these you'll have to adjust on the system level and in the project level, but just, a worthwhile thing if you are talking about exploring is here under the manage. You can set up a lot of stuff that you used to have to do system wide. So schedule jobs, certain types of configuration. And again, a lot of these are also in your system wide settings. But just, you do have them isolated down by project again, because we're trying to kind of encapsulate all of your project and all of the entities associated with it and all of the work that's going to be done in one kind of sealed package, so that you do not create this huge rat's nest of dependencies, and you make a change in one project and you forget that it's connected to the second or the third project in some esoteric way, and then now your third project's broken and you go to fix it on your third project and now your first project is broken. We're trying to get people to kind of work in these smaller sandboxes, um, for you. So again, CSS is something that normally would be in system wide, right? And it still is. If I go over here, it still is in your system wide settings. I just need to remember where it's at. But it still is over there, right there, designer CSS. So I still have all this stuff, but none of it's really attached to a project. So these are things that you might want to consider when updating from version 8 to version 9, and when you're checking to make sure your version 8 projects are still working when updating to version 9. So that's about 15 minutes on version 9 updates and version 9 kind of at least workflow. See what else we can kind of talk about for a moment here. And again, we talked about it earlier, but this Decision Apps Marketplace, it's still available within the Decisions instance itself as well. So I just typed in Decisions App Marketplace, but you'll notice like Access Manager, when I come over here and I click on the App Store, there it is right there, Access Manager. So you can actually install that same marketplace stuff from your actual Decisions instance, but still there are some stuff on here that may not be in your Decisions instance, stuff like these partner solutions. I'm not sure if those are fully over here yet. It does not look like they are, but it's something worthwhile to look at. And again, CSS generator, it will allow you to kind of create some CSS for your project. If you have branding or colors or UI stuff that you want to implement, this is going to be a really useful tool for you. Guess we'll do one more talk around here. What have I been working on lately? Yeah, so we'll do one more. We'll talk about oh, I know what we can do. Cool. Um, we'll go to, I got too many versions of decisions open right now. We'll talk a little bit about some, just to kind of kill a little bit more time. Something that I've been working on that I think is, well, I'm done working on it, but is useful, is some of these steps that you can utilize to get information from your local machine, either automatically or dynamically. So two little use cases that I've made for like tiny little mini applications, using some of those steps. And these are file management steps. So these are located within this section of the toolbox, file management. There are lots of tools that you can utilize to uh, integrate with your machine or server. So for this particular use case, as someone who does training, I make a lot of screenshots. I do screenshots for emails. I do screenshots for slide decks. I do screenshots for just sharing information. So my folder is always full, but I can create a scheduled job, which I have, where I list the files in my directory. So I'm listing the files that are in my name screenshots folder, and it outputs that as a list of strings. And then I iterate through them using a for each step, and I delete that file. And then I send myself an email. So if I have 124 screenshots in that folder, which probably is about right for a week period or a 2-week period, you can go through and delete those files individually. Well, all at once, but the for each step will do them individually. And then I send an email to myself saying, hey, at this time, I deleted all of these screenshots from that folder, and it can run automatically. Another really great process here is you can, so what I have made here is a similar process where I load all my files from a particular directory. So the directory I have here is called company information, and then I will eventually move files to a folder called moved company information. So dynamically, I will load all the files. Let's see if I can just run this. I'm not even sure if I have any files in that folder. Um, I do. So what I can do is I can load those files and just saying, hey, it looks at my desktop folder. I can select a file, say, hey, this is some confidential information, and I can hit watermark. And what it will do is it will go through, it will watermark these for me using this add watermark text to PDF step. It will then convert that file data to file reference. It will then convert that file data to file reference using a step called load from file data, which takes in file data and outputs file reference so that when I use this end form session, I am using that file URL as what's going to happen. It's going to open that URL. So this is going to give me a file URL. It will then open it automatically. And by opening it, it will download to however I have my Google set up to download. And then what I had done is I paused to give it a second to download in case I did a ton of files at once. I did like a 3-second pause. And then I renamed those files. So the file name, I said, okay, I'm going to take this selected file to watermark, the file name, and I renamed it to confidential select select file to watermark file name. So it just adds that file name. So it downloads, gives it a second to download, it renames it, I give it a second to rename it, and then I just move it into a folder that I want it to go into. So by that process, it kind of just takes files from one folder, watermarks them, downloads them, renames them, and then moves them to where I want them to be. And again, this where this file name for my input is for that move file, it is in this downloads folder because that's how I have my Google Chrome set up. By default, you're not going to be able to change a direct place. I can't say I want it to be saved in this particular location, but you can kind of allocate that responsibility to your browser, such as Google Chrome or Edge, and say, okay, where does it by default go? To the downloads folder. And I can take that file and then move it. So there you go. I do have one more. Let's see if I can kind of find it really quick. I might not have it in here. String builder. Might have done it in another. Yeah, so I must have done it in another instance. I have too many to keep track of, but string builder is also a great tool, kind of that I've been playing around with. Documentation has quite a bit of information on it. And you can go to string builder. I do believe it's under step index, and then create string builder file base. See if I can find it in a different place here. String builder steps. And it kind of tells you some bunch of steps that we can utilize with string builder. So I've done some stuff too with this for, renaming. If you wanted to rename a email attachment, or if you wanted to kind of go through and build strings in a way that are a little bit more customized than something like exposed properties would give you, this is a great option for you. So again, I think we kind of covered a lot here in 25 minutes. We did all the version 9 catch-ups on importing. We talked about some file reference and file data stuff in terms of getting stuff off your machine using file service. And we did some string builder text stuff. So I think that is good for today. 26 minutes. So thank you for joining. Thank you for watching later. But we'll go ahead and end it now unless anybody's got any last minute questions. And I see people are dropping. So thank you guys very much. We will catch you another day. Appreciate you. Have a good one.